Blog Talk Radio.
Welcome to Women Who Rock with Success, which is an award-winning show for professional women. We profile a collective of amazing women who are thriving to build their brand. Women are handpicked in various fields who can provide credible information to build your business and lifestyle. We are live each Thursday at 9 a.m. Central Time, followed by our latest brand, Women Who Rock Investigates. To learn more about us, go to our website at www.womenwhorockwithsuccess.com. Now, let's join our podcast host in the studio, Mrs. Diane Winbush.
Hey, good morning, everyone, and welcome to Women Who Rock with Success. We thank you so much for tuning in with us on today. And our topic today is catered around communication, which this is very, very important, especially if it's educational, if it's academic, or whether you have a marketing is another tool that this is also effective for business. It's also something where we have to have our communication skills in the appropriate place in order for us to be able to get access. Sometimes we don't get access because of our communication skills. The person don't understand. They cannot comprehend what it is that we're trying to convey over to them. So today we have, she's a media mogul. We'll say media mogul. And so good morning, Monica Pierre. Welcome to the show on today.
Good morning, Diane. Media mogul, I was like chuckling to myself. I said, wow, that sounds good.
Media mogul, right, because when we're producers and we've been in journalism and we've done a whole lot in journalism and we become moguls. We become moguls. We don't know. Right. We no longer stay the same. We become moguls. So thank you so much for joining us today and taking your time out with us. First, we want to be able to get a little bit more about you. So tell us a little bit about you and what compelled you to be able to get into the media industry.
Well, that is such an amazing question, and sometimes when I think, Diane, about it and look back over it, it was not what I wanted to do initially. I am a sharecropper's daughter. We were five kids, both of our parents, we were sharecroppers, and they taught us that the most important things in life, faith, family, and making sure you have a strong work ethic. We were the first in our family to go to college, and one of the things I wanted to be was to mirror what I saw, and that were teachers in our community, teachers that, teach at the school, they were teachers in church, and they just did so many things, and I wanted to be a teacher as well. When I went to college, I started thinking, I don't think I want to do that. I don't really want to do that. So I changed my major. Now, remember, we're the first in the family to go to college, all right? And we have this idea of romanticism. We have this idea of what college is like. So I'm thinking, okay, this is not it. Education is not it. I'm not like Mrs. Brooks, not like the nuns who taught us. I want to do something else. So I had never seen such a thing called a course catalog. So I'm going, wow, you can do all sorts of things in life. So I'm just thumbing through it. Now I'm in college, remember, and I get to the P's, and I land on the course on psychology. That's the major. Okay. And I said, I don't know what psychology is, but it sounds awesome. It sounds huge. And I just said, I could be Dr. Monica Pierre, psychologist or psychiatrist. I just romanticized it. So we get in class. I'm sitting there going, you know what? I don't like this. I don't even understand this. So I'm thinking this college experience is not going well. And my father is going to say, if you can't pick a major and stick with it, you're coming back home and you're going to dig sweet potatoes. And I didn't want to go back to that. So I'm sitting there, and I was with a college friend, and she said, come with me to the radio station. So I go to the radio station, and Diane, I'm dating myself, she had this beautiful afro, long ebony fingers. She put on her headphones, and she said, you are listening to KRVS Radio in Lafayette, Louisiana. I'm Myra Jolivet. My jaw drops. Wow. I'm going, you can do that with your voice? You can do that? So guess what I did? Next day, I changed my major number 3, and got into it. So there were a lot of things I had to work on, but that was my first introduction because I wanted to really be an actress. And I said, this is the next best thing. So I got into it, in particular news. So I have been working in and out of radio and television for many, many years, up until the storm when a lot of things shut down and people lost their shows. I was one of that. But, I've really experienced telling people stories. Even when I did not know that's what it was, that's what it was. I could sit in a room and be quiet, and people thought, well, maybe she's shy. And I was never shy. But I was always looking and observing the way that they would speak, the way they would communicate, the way they would use their bodies to tell a story. And if you grow up in a certain time and, the old black men who sit there and tell stories, you're riveted by it. I said, I can tell people stories, or I can help them tell their stories. So I did television news, and I always saw myself as a conduit or the way to make it happen for them, where they had the dignity to tell their story, even if they were not media savvy. But I would create a space for them to be powerful and have dignity within it. So long story short, many, many years later, I'm finding ways to tell people's story, help them tell their story, and be that media mogul and looking at all the different ways in which we can communicate and create our own media companies.
Absolutely, because it's something about when we start, some individuals may be stronger, already have everything that they need. I got everything in my backpack. I know what I want to do in life. And sometimes it starts off with something totally different. And so with myself, it was marketing, and then I'm like, no, and then it started off to something else like investigative shows and things, and I started connecting with Dateline, and I said, well, okay, so we're going to take this up another notch. We're going to do communication. And so I did, and that's the reason why my hat is off to women who take up this field to work in the media industry, and also to monetize what it is that they have, where they can be able to help other individuals. This is not a coaching thing. This is a monetizing. And so when I look at Power Communications 101, so kind of explain that a little bit to us, 101 with Monica. So is this like an initial intake where individuals come in who desire to do work with you, or to work with you, and then you provide what it is that they need to be able to get them on track in the communication field, as far as verbiage, which that's very, very important. I think I got in a lot of trouble when I was, taking my communications degree. Got in a lot of trouble with my verbiage and things, and so I had to go to Grammarly.com, and I'm like, okay, then after I got into that, okay, that'll fix my problem temporarily, because I got to sit here and I got to read to see how these words work. So tell us a little bit about the 101 conversation with Monica Pierre.
Well, thank you for that. One-on-one conversation, is you as the storyteller, you as the communicator, what do you want to say to your audience? What do you want to communicate with them? What are they tuning into you or following you for? And oftentimes, because we basically have two voices, right, Diane? We have our very casual voice and we have our professional voice. And sometimes we get to the point where we beat ourselves up because we feel, well, if I just change everything, people will listen to me and connect with me. And then, especially when I teach at the university here in New Orleans, I get pushback from students who say, I'm just keeping it real. I'm just keeping it real. This is me, take it or leave it. And I ask the question, it's not a judgment call on which one is better. It's a judgment call on which one is most effective. It's a judgment call on which one is most effective to get you what you're looking for. So when we work one-on-one, I'm digging. I'm looking for the gem of who you are and what you want to communicate. And here's the gem. We can polish it up. We can make it shinier, but it's still you at its essence. It's still you at its core. And sometimes when we communicate and write, we know in our heads what we want to say, what we want to do, But when it comes out, it's a little bit kind of like the Charlie Brown with the teacher, wah, 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 wah. People really are getting what we are trying to say, so we can polish it. I tell the students, because sometimes, my college students, they want to get it perfect the first time. I said it's a journey. All of these years later, 30-something years later, I'm looking to polish it up, make it more effective, be more of myself, use my voice in a commanding way, vary my tone so I'm not monotone. That is never, ever ending. It's like you don't brush your teeth one time and call it a day for life, right? If you want to keep your teeth, you're going to do some other things. You're going to make sure you're attending to it on a regular basis. Yeah, I'm just saying. Now, if you don't want any teeth, that's just you. So when we work together, we want to make sure that the essence of you is still there. In what areas can you polish it up so that you can communicate most effectively? Because, again, even when I write things, I'm going, what the heck did I just say? What was I trying to say here? So we go through that, and we begin to build that muscle. But oftentimes at the heart of what is happening is not so much the message and what the message is, but it's the messenger. Sometimes the messenger is so afraid for pushback, so afraid that they're going to put themselves out there, and they don't feel worthy of the message. So they say, well, maybe I'll do these things more. Maybe I'll hire this person. Maybe I'll wait. Maybe I'll get another degree or whatever. And sometimes the real work, Diane, is the role of the messenger and feeling worthy of you being the one to carry and articulate the message and communicate that message.
Okay, great. So a part of the initial intake, that's what most of the guests, they, who do coaching and or what have you, or has a monetizing business for entrepreneurs. So is that a part of it as well, making sure that you are a good fit with the individual that comes seeking your services? Because a lot of times, a lot of times when it comes to business coaches, when it comes to CEOs, sometimes, the person they may be on A, but the instructor is way up there on F, and so it's not a compatibility. Perhaps maybe the individual is somewhat of a premature. So talk to us a little bit about that as to how you ensure with your clients that you and them are a good fit instead of wasting your time. Because even if it's money involved, even if a person, they say, well, Diane, or we'll say, okay, Monica, we'll say, Monica, this is Monica's day to day. So we'll say, Monica, I want to come in and I want you to help me to try to communicate, get my words together, get my sentences, my phrases together, and what have you. They come in and they dump tons of money out to you. However, you're exhausted because you know that the person somehow does not fit where you're trying to take them. So tell us a little bit about that as to what type of a couple of those steps that you may use or techniques that you may use to be able to challenge. See, and that's something too. I had some issues with that in the degree. I didn't like challenges from my instructors. Sometimes people try to work with you to help you to come up higher. And so what are some of the techniques that you use to ensure that the client is not wasting your time, whether it's $500 or $600 or what have you? Sometimes, even with what I do, you have to turn the person down because you know that the person is not both, they're not mature. Perfect. So tell us a little bit about that, how you make sure that your clients, when they come to you, are compatible.
Well, first of all, my apologies. Since the Hurricane Ida, phone service and everything's been wacky, but that's okay. Well, good. Can you hear me okay now? It's fine. I hear you great. Right. One of the things that I've had to learn the hard way, Diane, and this is for those who are monetizing and really assessing what's a good fit, is that every dollar is not your dollar. Even though you want it, even though you need it, right? When you look at your cash flow, nothing's flowing in, you go, I'm going to take it. And there is this guttural reaction that I've found that I'm going, this is not going to end well. But you say yes anyway. So what I have learned to do is when we have the conversation and I'm talking to the person, the potential client, And when I get the feeling and I see that they're looking for a fix-it person as opposed to them being in partnership with this development, I have to say this is not going to work. Or I offer them an option. Instead of you thinking I do everything for you and fix you, why don't we start in this capacity? Why don't you want to get your message out there, why don't you pay me to interview you and we see how that goes? Because I've done that, and some of the telltale signs is that they want enormous amounts of proposal from you. I'm going, really? You need all that to make a decision? It's like, oh, send me an invoice. And before we get started, I send you an invoice, and you go like, well, I got to talk to my sister or my husband about this. Okay, you really weren't ready? And so the challenge is, are you willing to walk away from that? Are you willing to say, look, your message is great, but we're not a good fit. I have some free services that you may want, some videos that you can watch, and let's start there. And sometimes they come back, and sometimes they don't. And as someone who's had to refund somebody some money, because it's been where I don't want to deal with it, it's just making my stomach hurt, and I didn't listen to that internal voice that said, this is not a good fit for you. Even though you can bring a lot of value to the table, this is not a good fit. So I would say sometimes the answer is no. And it's okay for that answer to be no. And I'll be very vulnerable and honest. That didn't come day one. That lesson came many years later when I got sick and tired of going, this is not a good fit. So again, and for those who want the service, you may say that you could help them, but the truth is, at this point, they're not really helpable. Okay. They're not at a place where they want to make sure that this is what they want. It's not a true partnership or collaboration, if that's the model that you use. And mine is from the building them up so that they can soar, as opposed to doing and fixing everything for them. So in the one-on-one conversations, I'm always listening to that. I'm asking some of those onboarding questions. And if they get stuck in the weeds of pricing and cannot see the value of it, if they cannot see the empowerment of it, then it's not a good fit. And it's up to me as the leader of the company, as the media mogul, not to get and use all of that energy. Because if it's a good fit, right, Diane, haven't you found this? They're like throwing money at you, but it's like, okay, I really want this to happen. What do I need to do, not just writing a check or sending the credit card, what do I need to do to build my muscle as this communicator or build my muscle as the messenger? Those are the kinds of responses that you're looking for that would be a good fit for you.
Absolutely, because a lot of times, Monica, people, entrepreneurs, successors, they'll pay the money, but they're actually looking for something real quick. They don't want entrepreneurs, sometimes they don't want to go through a process. And so that's another, key factor that'll let you know, and especially with, I try to tell those that I'm not a coach or anything, but I try to help some startup businesses and what have you. It's a sweat equity. You got to go through something. You have to put some arm work in there, some leg work into what it is that you're doing. And so sometimes individuals, they're looking for something big, huge, and exciting. I want to be just like Monica, so I'm going to pay Monica to be able to help me to be like her, instead of me focusing on what I need to be focusing on so I can make sure that I have it down packed as to where I need to be. And a lot of times people will try to pay for the person's position, the title, and what have you, instead of them overlooking the fact that you have to grow with a certain thing. I did too, in some instances down through business and what have you. And sometimes it's a, as you stated, sometimes it's a costly thing. You got to get back on in your lane where you belong and what have you. And so that's the reason why I brought that question out, because that's very, very important. Sometimes with the initial intake, the people pay for the services, but they want something real quick. They want the response to come out. I know my business is going to go straight to the top in 4 weeks or what have you, but they have not put any earned sweat equity in there. You have to put that in. So we want to talk about this. Now, you come from building sweet potatoes, and, all of us have had our little share and things like that. I've had it too, pigs and what have you on the farm when we were coming up and what have you. And so what was it like after all of what you went here and then you took this program and you took this degree program, and out of all of the things that you have accomplished, you now come to the part where you have been selected as an Emmy award-winning journalist and speaker. Tell us about that, because sometimes we don't even know what we have on the inside of us. We had I can't think of her name. Julie, I think is Julie Kent. She received an MBA from Queen Elizabeth. And so out of all of the sewing that she was doing out of her life due to something that happened with one of her children, one of her kids that she's from the UK, one of her children passed away. And so she continued to sew and do fundraising, continued to give. And it earned her an MB, I think if I'm saying it right, it's an MBA, and Queen Elizabeth was the one that gave it to her. And so she said, I was not looking for this. I was just coasting along, doing what I was supposed to do. So we want you to tell us in that perspective as to all of the things that you have created and you have, founded, and you have helped so many other people. What was it like when you were elected as an Emmy award-winning journalist? That's powerful.
Well, a couple of things, yeah, and I want to be as crystal clear and transparent and vulnerable as I possibly can.
Okay. Mm-hmm.
For many years after I won the Emmy, it was for investigative reporting. We had a camera crew. We went undercover. We had our producer play an international business person. We got the people, cheating and everything. We had a law and a rule changed in Louisiana. But sometimes when we're doing it, particularly for women and especially for women of color, we can downplay what we have. We can downplay, and it's no big deal. I did my job. Look, I produced it. I was the reporter and everything. And I noticed that I was not celebrating the gift that I had been given. So I'm like, it's no big deal. So for the longest, I didn't even display it. Here comes Hurricane Katrina, right? And in the aftermath of Katrina, the trophy got damaged. The award got damaged. And then I started to recognize, like, wow, you were hiding this Emmy in a closet, and then you put it out for a second, and then after the Hurricane Katrina, it gets damaged, and then we had to figure out how to put it back together again, like old Humpty Dumpty. And I told myself, this is a big deal, not just for you. This is a big deal for all of the others who are saying, what I contribute, what I offer, I need to play small. So I promised myself, Diane, that I would say, yes, I'm an Emmy award-winning journalist. I would say that because there was a lot of things that led to that, not just the covering of the story, but what was poured into me by my family, what was poured into me by journalists and reporters who came before me, particularly reporters of color. And that this was not just my Emmy award, their Emmy award as well. And also the other little young girls of color and reporters who are going to come behind me. So I had to stop hiding it and put it out there. But the journey of it was great, making sure that, we brought that excellence. And remember, I mentioned that I had about 2 or 3 majors before I decided to become somebody in communication. What I've come to learn is that every part of me equals this. There's always going to be a teacher in me, whether you call me that or not. There's always going to be a psychologist or a mindset person, regardless if you call me that. There's always going to be that storyteller, that media person, that helping people tell the story. It's always going to be there. In everything I do, there are slivers of that and bigger chunks of that I use. the country girl is always going to be there because she's going to know that we plant the seed and can't eat tomorrow because there's a process that nature teaches us, that there's going to need to be some resilience and leaving the seed in the ground because things are going on underneath that we cannot see. That's where the germination is taking place. That's where it's getting, the roots are taking place, and that's when you're going to start to see growth. So even though there were very difficult times in the business, I could really count on and go back to and say, this is how I was able to do it. Not just for me, not just because of me, but because of all of the things I learned along the way as a sharecropper's daughter. And the words of my mom, I remember that it's faith and it's family and it's hard work. And going through all of that and persisting, even, especially the days of media where you never bought a house because you never knew if you had a contract the next year, That's how we approached it. Okay, let's see what happens in year 3. Let's see if you get renewed. That type of thing. So, so I am honored to say that I'm an Emmy-award winning journalist. And not only in news, but I was part of a television pilot that won a regional Emmy as well. So I say those things to be grateful and to also to show and tell others that, it may not be an Emmy, but keep doing your gift. Keep doing it, and things will happen. And it may not be called an Emmy, but there are people who are going to be watching you and looking at you and celebrating with you. And it's up to you, too, Monica Pierre, to feel that this is something that you have worked hard for. No one gave it to you. Trust me, they don't give them. It's just everybody.
Right.
And this is something you should celebrate and you should be happy with, and a return on the investment of the gift by the ultimate gift giver that was given to you.
Right. That's right. Absolutely. Your story makes me think about Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson. Okay, so he was honored with a People's Champion Award.
Choice Award.
But Choice Award, and he gave it to someone else of the Make-A-Wish Foundation. So she was a recipient of it. And I thought that was such an amazing moment. He said, this is not mine. This is not mine. And so that made me think about that when you were sharing your story, that, this just does not belong to me. This Emmy belongs to the people. It's the people that helped me to be able to, persevere, and move forward, down the road. And so I just thought that was so amazing of what I saw on the television. I'm like, wow, he gave his award away to someone else. He was not trying to take the credit. He felt that it was someone else that needed to be spotlighted in regard to that. And so now let's get to your books before we're just about to run out of time. Let's get on one of your books, Found My Soul in a Sweet Potato Patch. Now, we want to talk about that and share with us some of the takeaways that you expect a reader to grasp from the book. If they're coming in to purchase the book, a lot of times people will read the preface and the foreword first. That's the way I am. I love a lot of Columbo books. I'm a Columbo fan, and before I even get into the first part of the book, if the introduction doesn't pull me in, it's just I close the book up. I won't purchase it, I won't read it, or it goes back on the shelf at the library. So that's the reason why we're trying to get some information as to one of the books that you have written, Found My Soul in a Sweet Potato Patch, and the takeaways that you expect the readers to grasp.
Oh, thank you again for that. You are such a generous interviewer. I wrote the book. I'm going to back quickly. When I was full-time in radio, I was the news director, and my partner and I had the number one show in New Orleans. In fact, we were number one for 15 years in the market, and that's over everybody. They played hip-hop, and they played R&B, and I started doing 30 seconds of Monica's motivational moment, where we would stop the music and I would encourage, I would provide some words of hopefully wisdom and encouragement. And it caught on, Diane, so quickly. Now, remember, I'm the news person, right? And people started saying, I'm going to date myself, can you fax me a copy? I said fax. can you fax me a copy of what you just said? And this would go on. I'm going, sure, why not? So based upon that, people started seeing me in this light of being an encourager, a motivator, someone who could just in 30 seconds uplift someone. They said, when you talked about that, that's me. I'm that woman in the courthouse with my son again. When you talked about dealing with illness, or you talked about believing in your dream, that's me. So that went on. I said, this is interesting. I will put this in a book. And I said, I'm going to put this in a book, and I am going to take these motivational moments, these little nuggets, and put them in a book. But I only want to write a book if I can talk about my family, my sharecropping family, and what we learned growing up as sharecroppers. So I got the title, Found My Soul in a Sweet Potato Patch, and I will lie to no one and tell you the truth that I hated digging sweet potatoes. I'm not going to say, we were so happy in the fields. No, we were not so happy in the fields. We did it because that's what we did. But there were so many things that I learned about myself and about work and about faith and about family. So I put it in there. Nature teaches us that we cannot plant today and eat tomorrow, although we want to. There's a process. And sometimes, Diane, we will be planning and things will be going on and it'll be great. But it doesn't always end the way we want it to end. Sometimes there's rain. Sometimes there's no rain. Sometimes it shrivels up. But there are things we learn in nature about persevering. Every year, in the book I write about this, my father would be on his old John Deere tractor with that horrible smelling cigar, King Edward cigar. Maybe somebody knows. Grandfather used to smoke that. And he would sit on the row, and I just would see him thinking, he couldn't sit too long in the previous crop, whether it was bountiful, whether it was a disaster. You can't sit too long either way. And I would see him thinking, praying, planning, starting the tractor, the ignition, that old black smoke billowing, and he would get to work. And I said, that is it. That is it. We can't sit too long in the victory. We can't sit too long in the misery. We get to work, and we trust, and we keep going. So when you read the book and you read the Monica's Motivational Moments, and you can start anywhere, any chapter. It's a very simple, quick read book. You will see what it is to have a dream, what it is to deal with fear, what it is to see beyond. Again, when you're looking out and there's nothing there, when you're looking out and you're thinking about your dream and you're planning your dream, you have to have the vision to see something that's not there. And particularly when you start to plant, you have the little crop, and you may not even see yet that pushing through the soil, but you have to trust that underneath things are going on. So if there's something in the message, if there's something that you're working on that you want to communicate, just because you post it today doesn't mean you're going to be an influencer making tons of money tomorrow. You may want to, but that is not what's going to happen. So persistence and consistency, because sometimes, and we're human, we're putting it, we put something out there and we hear what? Crickets. We hear nothing. And we think that that's an indication that what we're doing is wrong. No, it's just not ready. Keep going. Keep going. Right. Don't pull the seed out every night looking for evidence that it's growing. It'll never catch root if you do that.
Absolutely. Wow. And that is very, very important to ensure that, a lot of times, another thing, sometimes we, expect pats on the back and things like that. Sometimes that's not going to happen either. That's not going to come. That's not going to occur. Sometimes people may see what you have and they know it, and it perhaps may be a little bit, it may sparkle a little bit more than theirs, and they'll try to tag along and what have you, just to see perhaps what they can be able to get out of it themselves. I'm just being honest. And so, and then a lot of times we think we're not doing anything, but if someone else can be able to see the value and they want to be in the shoes that we're stepping in, of course, we have value. we have value. So with the last question, Monica, this has been so awesome on today. Here's the time and opportunity where you can be able to share with the listeners as to how they can connect with you. If you want to share any of your social media links, if you want to share any classes that you have coming up, or how they can be able to schedule a class with you, or you can share your website. You can be able to share also where they can be able to find your books. You can do that at this time.
Oh, thank you so much. For the books, MonicaPierrePresents.com. You can order the books online. But I really also want to get you, to the listening audience, to watch a show. I'm the executive producer and host of the show on YouTube called The Powerhouse Woman Show. The Powerhouse Woman Show on YouTube, where we interview women. I'm gonna call Diane, see if I can get her on my show to talk about what it means to be a powerhouse woman, to communicate where you are and what you're building. If you can also follow me on social media at Monica Pierre, 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 and I am wrapping up tonight actually a masterclass called Get Clear, Get a Plan, Make Moves Masterclass. But I'm also going to have it in January, because now is the time. Many people are saying, you know what, some people are pausing in December. They're going to take a break, but others are putting pieces in place for 2022. And this masterclass helps with the planning and the clarity and also making moves. So if you'd like to find out about my January date, all you have to do is send me an email at monica@monicapierrepresents.com, and I'll give you that information.
Wow, that is awesome. And so, everyone, we have really got the nuggets of communication. She has also shared how the intake process works when you want to come on board with her, and then also you have to be patient as well. And then we also talked about things as the sweet potato. I'll say sweet potato woman in quotation marks, okay? Because a lot of times we start from a very, very, wealthy. Sometimes we're wealthy and we don't look at it that way. If we're doing chores in the house, we don't think that's wealth. But it is, because it helps us to be thankful and grateful to where we're going to. And so our parents have put out so much, our grandparents who raised me put out so much to make sure that these things remain on track as to where I am today. So I thank you so much, Emmy-award winning Miss Monica Pierre. Thank you so much for taking this opportunity to be with us on today. And we will be back with you in just probably a few minutes with Women Who Rock Investigates. So everyone have a great day. Thank you, Monica.
Thank you. Bye-bye, everybody.